A pilot can always use an extra pair of hands.
Dude, what are you talking about?
Paul, this isn't a debate. Book is gonna need me. I don't know how I know it, but I do.
So with the show having come to an end and it's now getting this gorgeous home release, looking back over the last 8 years of working on Discovery, what do you hope the show's legacy is as part of this massive and probably eternal franchise?
A big question, Samantha. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that while it's important to discover new planets and new species and new universes, and that someday we will, that in the end, our connection to each other is still the most important thing about our lives, right? The way that we choose to connect with people who are different than we are, who may look different than we are, who may feel differently about any given subject.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to remember that we need each other. That's one. Two, that as human beings, our job is to know ourselves more deeply and better, and that's part of our work here on this planet, or whatever planet we're on. That it's okay, that it's not a selfish thing to want to know yourself, and that to connect with other people is the most important part of our lives. And I think the show really displayed that.
This season, you got to go on a really cool sort of spiritual journey. And it sort of allowed you to both relate to Michael more, and even at one point you got to play a whole other character for a day. So how do you feel about how Hugh's story ended and sort of the full circle journey for him?
I'm really satisfied because I thought that season 5 was going to be the end of a chapter for him, right? He had been on this journey of self-acceptance, of self-realization, really, a reimagining of his world, of his life, no longer sitting in the background of his genius husband, but stepping into his own genius. But also trying to understand how all of this happened, right? To come to terms with the fact that he had died and come back to life and created this life, and that there were questions that could never be answered about that drove him nuts, that made him anxious. Like the fact that they're even 900 years into the future, right? That causes anxiety. We can't really explain that. And for a scientist, that's hard to accept. But for him at the end, to finally be moved by the fact that this incredible experience has happened and he can't explain it, but it all worked out, was a revelation for him that, he could finally trust in the universe again.
Yeah.
Even though he couldn't explain it. And so I was excited to come back in season 6 and discover what that means now, because, who is he now that he doesn't have that anxiety anymore, right?
Yeah.
But it was a nice way to end his series because now it's just one full arc. So I'm pretty satisfied with that.
In the finale, we get this beautiful flash forward with Michael and Book, and they're sort of happily ever after. And we do see the rest of the crew again in that that sort of vision scene that Michael has. But where do you think that Hugh and Paul are at that point in their journey, in their lives in the future?
I think they spend a lot more time at their vacation home in Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico. I think they spend a lot more time probably visiting their charges wherever they are. But, I also think that they are probably helping Tilly over at the Starfleet Academy whenever she needs us. But I think, they're happily married and, excited about their retirement.
I love that. And speaking of Tilly, now that we know when Starfleet Academy is set, is there any chance that we'll see you guys pop up there maybe in the future?
I don't know. I mean, they know that we're more than happy and willing to come back if asked. But, we're wishing them every success. I'm speaking for Anthony and I.
Yeah. Good to answer for your work, husband.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see all the wonderful bonus features on this disc and for just like the future of Discovery to be eternal.
I can't wait to see it either, by the way. I have no idea what's on.